Hey guys, man, the music, the intro, my mind today, even like what I'm fooling around with in Ableton Live today. Definitely feeling a little on the distant side. That's all right. We can't all be high energy, go, go, go all the time, right? We got to have our ups and downs. It's natural. Who's in the chats? Whisper was first today. Well, other than Thomas, our everyman here at 343 Labs. Whisper's talking about a free plugin or some free software from Mixed and Key for collaboration online. I've seen that before. It's been a little while since I've looked at it, actually. You should check it out again. I read about it and I never really tried it. I have been interested in online collaborative, online jamming kind of stuff. There's been a little bit of live streaming about that in the past. But yeah, we should maybe I should check out what Satellite has to offer in terms of making the process of collaboration more seamless in terms of working between different DAWs. That seems to be what the point of it is. But yeah, good suggestion, Whisper. What's up, Josh Holiday? Alan Dunphy in the UK, greetings. Ladislav is here. Nice to see you again, Lad. Lie Society. Simple Sam is back. Lots of regulars today. This is great. What's up, Oval Shrimp? Shrimp? Did I just say what did I just say? Oval Shrimp. That low end is no joke. Yeah, it's just sine waves in that intro thing. You got to have good speakers or good headphones to really get it full. You must have that. Keter Bosch, hello. Eatsy, what's up? And John H. Kingston III, regular, back in the house. Nice to see you. And Silver Knobs, HMDT. What's HMDT stand for, Silver Knobs? You're asking about the subject today. We'll get into that. This is going to be a little bit of a wander today. All right, let's bring it in, and we'll tell you more about it. What's up, everybody? John Selway here. Techno Saturdays. Yes, it's techno. It could be anything, really. But yeah, thinking more on the techno side. 4/4 kicks, not so much the syncopated electro stuff. And yeah, Techno Saturdays. Those of you who are regular, you know what I do, what we do here. 343 Labs, 343 TV. Every Friday and Saturday. Abe on Friday, me on Saturday. Sometimes I do the electro, sometimes the techno, sometimes both at the same time. Why not? And every now and then we have a Tuesday with Tetro Talks. And 343 Labs is a music production school here in New York City, in Berlin, and online, of course. I just started an online synthesis and sound design class this week on Wednesday, and I've got an in-person course starting tomorrow. And yeah, that's generally what we do here. We teach classes, we do private lessons, we have our 343 studio, you know, where, as Abe calls it, the dojo, where you all can come and get feedback, take part in collaboration workshops, see master classes and workshops from visiting artists, artists in residence, things like that. We have our Discord you can join. Everybody's got a Discord nowadays, right? To keep the conversation going between each other and with us. So much to talk about, man. I'm telling you, I've got a coffee here. It's not doing enough. I don't know if I needed to get a bigger coffee. Maybe it's like the ratio of espresso to milk was too much on the milk side. It's I feel like sometimes coffee backfires on me and it slows me down. I don't know. Well, hopefully once we get into some music making and some playing around and experimenting, that will help wake me up. Sometimes that does. Sometimes just starting and hearing a sound and seeing where that leads, that journey. definitely gets the endorphins going. And then probably by the end of this hour, I will be fully awake, hopefully. For the sake of everyone, it's probably better that we start low and end high rather than me like try too hard to go full on from the beginning and then lose momentum later, which happens. Again, we all have our ups and downs. Ride the waves. That's what we do. All right. Wispa's complaining about too many notifications with Discord. You know you can customize the notifications, right? A lot of times I'm on all sorts of Discord servers, and I just turn off the notifications for everything and then only turn on notifications for channels or specific things. Like I have it set so it only, on a lot of ones that are more public ones, I have it only set to notify me if someone @s me, like uses my username, and then I'll get a notification, right? So that's what you have to do to deal with Discord. You have to filter the notifications. Otherwise, your phone's just going ding, 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 ding all day. It's kind of, I know what you mean. All right, so the subject today is, I know briefly we mentioned and some people asked previously about generative production kind of stuff, generative instruments and sequencers and things like that. And I won't say that I'm fully doing generative music today because that really involves even like a deeper level of structure to make something like Ableton Live just play music for you that makes sense, kind of, and just keeps randomly generating something that's a piece of music. But that said, there are lots of, I can't even keep track of how many different types of devices now, especially with Live and Max for Live devices, or in Reactor world, any kind of sort of programming environment. People are making these devices that just make sounds or make sequences in lots of different ways. It's a thing, right? And then there are lots of plugins out there that generate rhythms or melodies or chord progressions or whatever. And that's not even getting to the like AI write music for you world, right? I'm not even anywhere near that. When I use these tools, it's kind of like experimenting, looking for, new patterns, new ideas, or just maybe something to make my life a little easier. And I don't know. So I kind of semi-randomly picked a couple of things to look at today. And again, this is a bit of a wandering experimental show today. There's no like hard lesson to learn here. It's really, let's just see what happens with what we've got. So yeah, that's what's happening. And, I got an answer from Silver Knobs. HMDT stands for Homemade Detroit Techno. And, it's funny. Last week I had problems with my chat overlay where I could click and show comments. And this week I'm having the same issue. Let's see if I can fix it real quick because it's really annoying when I can't pop these comments up the way I want. And I think I can do it without interrupting anything. So let's see what happens if I have to cut and paste this link again, hit OK, click on the link, and yeah, it's not, there it is. Homemade Detroit Techno. Good to have that working again because last week it got stuck and I guess I had to reset it. So here it is. All right. Keter Bosch mentions Euclidean sequencers. Right. Yeah, stuff like that. I actually don't know if anything I have here today has any Euclidean anything in it. There are definitely, anyone who wants to know about Euclidean sequencing, you can just, after the show, just search in YouTube for that and you'll come up with all sorts of stuff. But what I have, let's see what I have. A couple of these are free and new-ish. They're new to me. Actually, I picked a couple of really old ones too, or at least not really old, but older. All right, so here's one of them that just popped up recently. I think Peter Kern at Create Digital Music did a post. Sting 2022 by IFTA. This is a free, it's supposed to be kind of an acid line generator, and that's pretty much, you don't have to use it for acid. You could use it with any type of synth you want, but that's sort of what it's geared towards. And I was curious because, like, one, it's got a smiley face. It's got a trippy, wavy smiley face, and, well, you want that, right? You want some kind of cool little animations and visuals while you're using your Max for Live devices. But I was curious to see how effective it was, and, using this and like just a simple subtractive / analog type synth to see how close I could get to an act like a reasonable emulation of a real 303. So that was the first thing that I wanted to play around with. So there's that. I recently purchased these. These are not brand new, but these Slink pack of Max for Live devices from Hypnos, right? Especially this Slink MIDI is really cool. It's not random, but it's generating really interesting melodic and rhythmic patterns. And there's also, if you want to get deeper into this, definitely, I looked at some YouTube videos about this before I bought it. I wanted to see am I gonna like this? And based on what I saw, I think it's really, really cool. So I've got that happening in there. And this is a much older sequencer. This one I heard about in the past, but never tried it. But it's actually a sequencer that, look at it's Pac-Man, right? It's a little bit of a gimmick, but it works. And honestly, this is the one that I haven't even tried yet, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure all of you who are interested in this sort of thing have your examples of plugins or Max for Live devices or whatever that do this sort of thing. So feel free to throw those in the chat so we can all check them out. All right, so there's that one. Random looping melodic sequencer inspired by the classic arcade game with 4 sequencer engines for generating random hypnotic melodic patterns or locked harmonies. All right, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get to this one, but I downloaded it because I thought, hey, it's free, $0, and it's Pac-Man, so why not? All right, didn't get that one. This is another one that I just started playing around with. So many of these generative sequencers this isn't a sequencer actually, but it is a chord generator. And so it isn't necessarily going to help you make a chord progression, but it will maybe inspire some interesting chords to try and write with, right? It's kind of cool. And this one's actually, I want to say this might be 10 years old at least. This one's been around or something, like it's years old. I had not come across this one before, so I just did a little searching on maxforlive.com to see what would come up, and that is one of them. And I tried it out, and it's kind of cool. And finally, oh, that's not an actual picture of the device. I'll have to show it to you, but this one's called MIDI Pond, and it's another simple, newer Max for Live device that uses gravity and collision. And we've looked at sort of physics-based stuff before. So I don't know. It's free. I gave it a shot. We'll see if it comes to anything. And with that said, let's dive in to see what's happening. And you can hear already. Hopefully that sounds okay. Level's all right. This is the Sting acid line generator in action. Let's kill that kick drum for a second. I kind of like this pattern. I mean, it's simple. It's like the most basic kind of easy techno acid pattern, right? We've got this length of 5/16 notes. That's set the duration of the notes is set here by the rates, and then the individual note length. And I'm actually kind of trying to work this out a little bit. There's a gate setting so that notes per step can be shorter or longer, and it's not transparent to me exactly how it's choosing which notes are shorter and which notes are longer. And that's actually a thing with 303 programming and emulation, is like the original sequencer in the 303 has a very specific way that it handles note length. And sometimes the emulations do that right, and sometimes they don't, right? So that said, it still does a pretty good job of making cool acid lines. And who says it has to be perfectly exactly like the 303 sequencer? All right, so I'm trying to remember, did I actually, before I get rid of this, did I capture it? I did. All right, so One of the things you'll want to do with this probably is record the output of whatever the MIDI sequencer is generating, capturing. This is just a workflow thing no matter what your type of MIDI generator you're using. If it's anything random, you probably want to be able to save or capture. And usually the way to do it is record the output of the MIDI into another MIDI clip. So that's what I did here. So I can, I can kind of safely screw this one up, or actually let's just duplicate that track. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off and sort of see how this thing works from scratch. All right. So we can set a length. Right, that's 4/16 notes. If we want to go all the way up to 16. We have a density. Right, so 1 note per 16 steps up to 16. And you can hear there's some bends in there, and that's happening because of the way the synth is configured. And that's another part of this, like making acid lines, whether you're using a generator, a sequencer like this that's generating patterns randomly or semi-randomly, to get it to sound like a 303 requires, all you need is the sawtooth wave or a square wave. You need a monophonic synth, right? So I have my number of voices to mono. The voice priority usually is best set to last if you can choose that. And there's glide, right? And it shouldn't be too fast or too slow. I used my ear to figure out that somewhere around 50 or 60% on Live's analog was pretty close to the rate of the glide of the bend on a 303. And then I need legato mode so that it only bends when notes overlap, right? That's how you emulate that. If it's bending all the time, 303s don't sound like that. At least unmodified 303s don't sound like that. They don't always bend. They only bend between notes when they sustain. So putting that into legato mode more accurately recreates that type of bend when the note lengths are longer. And the other thing is your envelopes have to be correct. So legato mode needs to be on the envelope so they don't re-trigger every note. I mean, you'll hear if I go in and turn. That sounds cool, but with legato off, every note the filter envelope is being re-triggered every time a note is played, and that is not how a 303 works. So if that's on, we're only hearing the envelope re-trigger when notes are not sustaining and gliding. All right. And another thing is that I'm pretty sure, not 100%, that the amp envelope on a 303 doesn't really have much of a decay at all. I mean, maybe it does, but I think it's almost all in the filter envelope. I could be wrong, if someone in there knows for sure, but the way I've always heard it is that the modulation is on the filter more than the amplitude in terms of that decay. All right, so anyway, back to the sequencer. So here's, again, right, we have the length, the density, and the type is kind of making the pattern more or less random. So if I go all the way down, fully random, and you can see it says the word random. And then I think as I increase towards, this is applying different scale quantizing, different note quantizing to make it hit certain notes. And when you go all the way to acid, which is kind of funny, it's all like minor thirds and octaves. So it makes it sound more sort of generic acid in a way, which works really well for certain styles of techno probably. And then you can change the root note. Oh, I have to turn MIDI off. Is this getting... That was weird. All right, let's generate a new pattern. Right, so that's the trick. You click the smiley face, and you get a whole new pattern. If you don't want bending, you're going to reduce the gate, and you're going to hear every single note. So once that's below 100, all right. Once you go over 100, you start to get some notes longer length, and they overlap a little bit. And all the way up to 200, and a lot of the notes overlap. So it's not exactly how it would happen on a real 303, but the result is pretty close to what it sounds like. So Oval Shrimp is asking, is that sequencer choosing the notes? Yes, that's the whole point of this. We're using generative devices. I'm not playing any of these notes from MIDI. It's there, right? But there's no clip on this track anymore. So it is all coming from this plugin. It is generating the MIDI notes. That's right. All right. How does that sound with a kick drum? Oh, sorry. I want this one. I picked semi-randomly picked a kick from Loop Cloud. I was like, which kick should I use? I don't know. Loop Cloud, bang. And then here I have like a fairly typical, thick, punchy, modern techno kick. Let's play around with this for a little while, see what we get. I like the low notes of this. So it might be a good idea. I said before, like you want to, when you're randomly or generating whatever patterns like this, you should probably record the output of it or save it somehow. And the best way to do that for me is in live is to. All right, I have no idea which one this is. Let's do this one. All right, MIDI from this one. All right, that's where I want the MIDI to come from. I'm gonna turn the monitor off, activate the track, and then just capture that. So that's what the MIDI looks like. Let's make some more. That one's good too. More acidy. The more it jumps up and down and bends, it gets even more like trippy acidy, right? Let's hear that with some more, with a longer gate time. All right, right now it's doing something that a real 303 wouldn't do. So that's what I was talking about. Like every now and then the sequencer does something that the 303 sequencer wouldn't be able to do exactly. And so if you're trying to do a close to the real thing kind of emulation, that's going to take you out of it. But when you don't push it too hard, it's pretty close. And then, of course, again, the other thing is like the sound you're playing is going to determine a lot of what that is. Let's keep going. Sometimes it's nice to have it not play constantly, right? Now, I like the low notes of this. Let's capture that. Okay. But now, another thing I can do to create variations here is to change the offset. So it's going to move the notes over. Or shift the pattern over. And this one's more, oh, this one's really good actually. It's a little more offbeat. It's sort of made it feel like it's pushing harder now. Or pushing faster, not harder. That's pretty good. You can play with the synth a little bit. sounds better when it's less resonant for this. Let me just show you what I mean before about having the glide time right. Here it's too fast, and here it's too slow. I feel like I might have... Did I change something? Sometimes, it's funny, let me stop this for a second so I can think. Sometimes I'm hearing the envelopes kind of trigger a little funny. And I think, I don't know if it's... And when I was listening to this at home, I felt like every now and then the timing was slightly off. And I don't know if it was the sequencer doing it or if there's something about Live's analog synth where it is a little bit off triggering sometimes. I definitely need to try this with another synth probably. Cool. Oh, hey, Shelly. Nice to have you back. Shelly says this would be a great tool to make a sample pack. Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? You could like generate these patterns, capture the audio and the MIDI at the same time, and then go back and organize that. Yeah, for sure. If you're making if you're trying to crank out loops for sample packs or for your own productions, this is definitely going to be helpful. Good suggestion. I like that. All right. Wispa says, I'm a big fan of silence. Like, space in music is important. And also these 303 patterns, if they're always playing, they can get a little bit incessant, right? It's good to have it pause and syncopate sometimes, right? So I agree there. Cool. Let me capture that one. All right. Keep playing. Just gonna keep making patterns. Why not? So changing the root, it kind of doesn't do exactly what you would think at first, right? It's not like transposing the whole pattern up and down in terms of semitones. It's whatever the one note that it's playing the most, that's whatever the sequencer is determining is the root of the pattern, that shifts, but the other stuff doesn't. That's actually kind of cool. That's unusual behavior, I would say, for a 303 style pattern generator. I haven't heard that exactly happen. Maybe it exists, I just haven't heard it. And it has a little MIDI button, so if you want, you could make a melodic sequence by all right, let's do this. Right, it's sort of weird, but if you got the right notes, you could go in and transpose the root over time and create a pattern. It's going to take some experimenting. Let's see. Okay. You see what I'm getting at here. I'm just trying to create a subtle variation in the pattern. Sounds kind of happy. So it's not happy, positive, even though it's in minor. I don't even know what these must be some scales. It doesn't say what they are. Polymetric stuff. I feel like making this bigger and dirtier now. I mean, I already have this thick, punchy kick drum. There we go. Just need some reverb. I know there's tons of like videos out there on how to make tutorials and whatever on how to make acid and stuff like that. So, you know, I guess we don't have to go too far into the synth and sound design thing here, but I do want to point out, like, this isn't a 303 and it sounds a heck of a lot like one, and it's because I'm trying to work again within the limitations of an actual 303. Like, it's not exactly the same filter, it's not going to have exactly the same tone, but if you go too high with the resonance, it loses it. If you go too high or low with the frequency range, you lose it. And you have to kind of control it in exactly the right way. Like the amount of envelope mod, that's something that you can control on a real 3.0. So that's something you're going to want to play with. But if you go too far, it kind of, again, loses the realism. And even if you go too short on the decay, it starts to, you know, it could sound cool, but it starts to go out of the range of the real thing. And then another thing to point out about the plugin, about this acid line generator, is it does do velocity, right? A 303 sequencer has an accent, which makes certain sounds louder and brighter because it's doing a little filter and a little amplitude modulation. And so in order to get this synth to follow that, I've got velocity to envelope going on. So if that's at 0, there's no accents. But if let's do it on the amp, it'll be. All right, we're not hearing that much of a difference because I'm squashing the heck out of it with the distortion. But trust me, it's doing something. You can hear it. It gets less intense when I bring it down. It could be a whole track now. I just need some hi-hats and stuff. Okay, done. Yes, that's right. Oval Shrimp says, add them to macros and set range limits. That is exactly what you do. Let's do it. All right. So we'll do the filter, and the resonance, and the envelope modulation amount, and the envelope, the velocity to envelope amount. Yeah. Oh, and the decay. The decay time. Let's put that on 7. And then up here, you can set the limits. So if I bring, that's too low for the filter frequency minimum. So bring that up until it sounds good again. Bring it all the way up. 22,000 is too high. Probably somewhere below 20, really. The resonance, same thing. If I bring the resonance all the way down, I want to set the maximum to as high as I ever want it to be, and the minimum. And the minimum can go all the way down, probably. pretty good. Now with the envelope amount, I want the minimum to be 0 because I don't want it to invert the direction. And I probably, I didn't really ever make it higher than 4 or 5, so let's make that 5. All right, same thing with the decay. Too fast. So somewhere around there. Probably, I don't know, 3. And I think that's most of it. All right, I need to, it's still some tweaking to do on the, all right, I don't care, actually, I don't care that sounds perfectly like a 303. That sounds good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to make a track out of this. Just you watch. How long it's going to take, I don't know, but it'll happen eventually. Cool. Absence in. Nice to see you. Glad that you made it. Wispa says rough kick for acid distorted. Yeah, but hard acid. This is hard acid that's happening here. Check peak hour techno at moment. It's distorted kicks. Yeah, distorted kicks. Chris Liebing style. Yeah, that's right, Wispa. He plays some stuff like this. I just was happy to see Chris Liebing played my 99.9 remix a couple times at some big parties, and that feels good. Big DJs playing your tracks for big crowds, that's like achievement unlocked. I love it. And no, Wispa, you don't get credits when I release this. Sorry. It's too, I don't know. This is such a generic acid line, and it was you know who gets credit? Sting 2022 gets credit for writing that line for us. So yeah. Anyway, I feel like I want to shift gears a little bit. It's already 1:40. Time has flown by, and I still have other stuff to look at, right? So let's just keep going. Usually I do a break halfway through, but I've already blown past that because I've just been hypnotizing myself with, hard acid lines now for the last few minutes. Let's switch gears, mellow it out a little bit, probably. And so that was a free plugin. This is not a free plugin. It's not expensive. I went ahead and got the whole pack that they sell for €75, which includes several cool looking plugins. But this is a really interesting generative sequencer. And it can also be used as an arpeggiator, so you can run MIDI into it, and it will break those notes up into unique patterns. You know what? I feel like I should maybe start this from scratch rather than go with the pattern that I had before. So let's look that up. Should be here installed in the packs. There it is, Hypnos Records, Slink MIDI. Let's throw that on in front of an operator playing some kind of little plucky sound. Let's hear what it sounds like. Not that exciting at first. All right, let's simplify the sounds too. All right, something a little more pleasant to start with, let's say. We'll just use a sine wave, why not? You can kind of see what's going on here, right? There's a wave, a sine wave, and a threshold. And this is for triggering notes, when the notes happen, right? If the threshold is all the way up, we hear nothing. As I bring it down, when the amplitude of that sine wave goes over the threshold, we hear a note play. And how often those notes play is determined by the rate. Put some reverb or something on that. It sounds so dry. It's See, originally this is how this stream was going to be. We ramped up into hard acid real fast. Now let's take a break and see if we can turn this into something kind of hypnotic techno sort of pattern or something. But for right now, we've got pretty bells. All right, so that's whether a note plays or not. And right now there's only one note on, so I could add some more. We can go from hertz to a synchronized LFO, and then we're going to start hearing the patterns repeat sort of more musically. All right, so that's when the notes play. And then we have another modulator for what the pitch is. And then those pitches are then quantized into a scale. So right now it's playing C minor. I'm gonna make it A now. And then this is a cool parameter. You can make it all fit into an exact scale, different type of scale, but then, or mode. But then if you change the color, it'll emphasize or de-emphasize certain notes. So you'll hear, more of one group of notes than another, and that can help make like more musical, interesting patterns, right? Let's get the clock running faster. We have it on quarter notes right now. That's already really nice. Let's unsync the pitch. So now that the LFO doing the pitch is out of time with the clock, it's going to constantly change. Whoa, those are too high. Let's filter this a little bit. All right. Can lower the range a little bit. It's getting high, so I'm going to bring down the higher notes. All right, now let's play around with some more variations in this. So I can change the shape of the waveform. I can apply gravity to it. So higher gravity, the notes stay lower more often. Lower gravity, they float higher. And these are all things that you can automate or modulate. So you could create really interesting musical evolution just by playing with the amounts of modulation and how the modulators react. It's really amazing. You can narrow or widen the range with the spread control. You can squish higher or lower. It's really interesting. How does it sound with like a big banging kick drum underneath it? A little bit incongruous, right? I feel like I need a different kick drum for this. I'm just keeping time right now. What if we filter it? Because that's just it's too dirty for that. It's so pretty. Let's see what happens if I click random on the clock. What? It's subdividing. It's adding faster subdivisions on certain steps. It's like, you could never play that. That's what I love the most about these kind of high-tech sequencers is they do stuff that either you can't physically even play, or that you wouldn't even think to or want to do the work required to like draw in all of that in a piano roll. Like, it's impossible. You would probably never do that. Rarely would you think of ever doing that. So yeah, this is amazing. All right, but I feel like let's play around a little bit with the triggers are doing. So now we're getting in, this is more like it, like for techno, more repetitive. If you want to get into something hypnotic. I already like, this is already a track I could finish. Just if I were keeping it really simple and looking for simple parts that are intricate. And you just modulate or play around with certain parameters. Speaking of, there is a modulation section. So we can use more waveforms to modulate the offset, inversion, or gravity of these. Right, so now there's a waveform modulating the offset. This is definitely generative now. It's creating constant new evolving melodies, and it's kind of poignant sounding somehow. I'm gonna play with the sound a little bit. Already telling a story. How we doing? Wow, we've had totally different directions, right? We went from just the acid thing, generating those crazy, wacky acid lines, got into some more simple but tough hard acid. Now switching gears into this other really nice device. I'm really happy with it. This Slink MIDI, right? And what it's doing now. I mean, it's not the only thing you could do with this, but what it's doing right now, it is really good at. It doing these kind of intricate rhythms that evolve and melodies that evolve. But because of the way it works with modulation, it's not random. And because it's not random, it's easily creating musical phrases that we latch onto right away. Like, I really like this type of situation. It's not like, when you think about melodies and harmonies and rhythms that grab us, usually they're not too random, right? It's like something that repeats or that follows a certain pattern that we can identify, and that's like sort of musically satisfying, emotionally satisfying. So that's what this type of sequencer kind of helps you do, and does it quickly, right? And of course, it also depends on the sound you're using and what would happen if you put this in front of some random samples sliced up or a drum kit. That might get a little crazy, but definitely something to try. It's because it's MIDI, it can play any sound, right? Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat about all this. You guys, there's been a lot of conversation going on while I'm playing that. Oh, and actually, Ladislav, definitely, we want to highlight this, that the people making the, oh man, where is the live chat overlay has again stopped working. Oh, there it is. It's just taking a minute to pop up. So yeah, Hypnos Records is a really good label to check out for the kind of music they do, in addition to the fact that they make these really cool devices. They're developing these Max for Live devices. So definitely good to shout that out as well. And let's see, scrolling back a little bit. Wispa asks that make pads for your acid track. I could do that. I don't know if I would use Slink to do it. It's possible. Slow it down enough, do some longer notes. But then, I don't know. Let me think about that one. Oval Shrimp says peak trip, bruh. Definitely. I think, was that back? I don't know if that was back when we were doing the acid part, or is it this? I mean, this is actually kind of trippy, right? Let's see what else. Looks a bit like OP1 engines from Itzy. Right, yeah, that's another nice thing about the Max for Live devices when people get creative with the layout and the user interface, and when they're well designed, it makes a big difference, right? And that's something we can definitely say about teenage engineering, is they do pay attention to their interfaces. Very cool. What else? Oh, you guys were talking about, Josh Holiday mentioned the swing. Yeah, I didn't try the swing in the acid thing. You don't hear a lot of swingy acid, do you? But it could be cool, right? Very good. And hey, Luminous Cloud, glad you're in here as well. I think you mentioned, did you mention this Tat plugin a while back or last week? Yeah, that's definitely, I was looking at that. I might, I don't know, dive into that one a little bit more. And I agree that something like this, it wasn't fitting with the kick, right? So maybe like an interesting mellow IDM electro pattern would be better than a thump. As soon as I put this on, I'm getting lost. And just to point out, yeah, Simple Sam, that just this Slink MIDI device by itself is inexpensive. It's the whole pack of plugins that's €75. Like, for example, the Slink filter. Which is kind of following a similar idea with the LFO modulation. I like it when it's going the opposite direction. It's like waves. I think some of the concept of these is like water and waves. Let's give it some more high end to filter out. I'm going to change the rhythm of this. Not to make exactly electro, but syncopated. We're ending mellow. I know I said we were going to end up. I did it the exact opposite of what I said. We started high and we're ending chill. What happens if we add some overtones to this? A little spread, adding some stereo imaging to that sound coming out of go into the advanced view of this filter. I know this isn't generative sequencing anymore, but since we're playing with it, I like that you can mono out the low frequencies in this filter and just modulate and play with the non-bassy ones. All right, getting crazy. And we end on that chill, poignant, spacey, psychedelic, generative moment. Thanks, everybody, for going along. I told you it was going to be waves and up and down today. It definitely was. Something about the direction that these plugins took me, right? We just got the 2 of them. I didn't go in to look at the other ones that I mentioned, but just real quick, at least let me show you what this one looks like. Before we go, actually, let me switch back over. Right, this is the Ghost, the free one, the Ghost LE. Maybe we'll have to do this again so we can play around with Pac-Man sequencing techno. That seems like something that should happen, right? All right, so that one is free. I should, I'll put some links in the description later on. And that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out. Really nice to see everybody. And I will see you next week. Adios, everybody.